All right, we're finally at the computer where we have all the stuff here, and we're going to start talking about notations. Okay, so what is the problem with the current notation system that everybody uses? Well, the problem starts with the fact that I was actually helping out at a local tournament where I actually brought my own DGT board to loan out as board 1, right? So there was a rook on f8 and there was a rook on a8. And so those two rooks were seeing each other. So they were connected. And because of that, there had to be a disambiguator to determine which rook went to d8, because like the board somehow just stopped working all of a sudden, and we had to like re-record the moves manually, and like and the guy who was supposed to be at the board, right? He somehow just wrote rook d8. Well, I mean, this is supposed to be the top board. Like they should have known all this stuff by now. But anyway, so because they only wrote rook d8, nobody knew whether it was rook a d8 or rook f d8. Because of that, when we had to input the moves, like we were seeing an awful lot of errors, and it took forever to finally figure out that the rook that was moved was rook f d8. And you can quickly see why this is going to be a problem. And even in the example you see here, right, this should have been rook b d6, but if this were an actual tournament, it wouldn't have been all that unrealistic to see rook d6, which that shouldn't be happening. And like I don't know what they're thinking. Like there should have been a disambiguator there. There clearly should have been a disambiguator there, but nobody can figure out whether there should have been a disambiguator or not, because when you notate in the current like system, sometimes there would have been a disambiguator, other times there didn't need to be one, but nobody could like figure out like the difference. So I'm going to come up with a new system that takes the guesswork out of the equation. Okay. So you have a situation like this. So obviously this is the classic example of a disambiguator like scenario. Obviously this would have been queen 5 g6, and this would have been queen h g6. This isn't queen g6. You should know better than that. But this in particular, because there's a queen on the same file and a queen on the same rank, this would have had to be doubly disambiguated, and it would have been written as queen f7 g6 if it were written correctly. Chances of that happening is literally 0, but I do have a solution for that. You will see it very soon. It will make sense very soon. So we are introducing a new notation system, and it's called the W31 notation system. How does it work? Well, to start things off, this normally would have been written as knight to f3. We're not going to do that. We're going to write it as knight f g3. This sounds very counterintuitive, but there's a reason for that. It will make sense very soon. So we have 3 different scenarios where a normal person would have written these as rook d6, but obviously, as we've already established, that doesn't work. So in a situation like this, under the new W31 notation system, all of these would be notated as rook b d6. We're not going to care if the rooks are on the same rank. We're not going to care if there's a piece in the way, and we are not going to care if the rooks are even on the same same like rank or file. We're not even going to care about any of that as long as a piece is being moved. Even if there's only a single knight on the board for white or black, there's still going to be a disambiguator. In almost all cases, the disambiguator is going to be the file. If both pieces are on the same file, it's going to be the rank, but otherwise it's going to be the file. But even then, like, there will always be a disambiguator. Like, remember when other cases there wouldn't be a disambiguator in some other cases? Well, we're going to just keep it consistent, and we're going to add a disambiguator every time. What that allows us to do is, whenever we write a notation for a piece, as long as it's not a pawn or a king, it's going to be a consistent 4-character system. This is what allows the gameplay to be of a consistent pace, and whenever there's going to be like time troubles, we're not going to have that anymore. And as we look at the further examples, there's going to be new solutions to, because like normally you would see stuff like doubly disambiguated moves. Yeah, there's a solution for all that. So in a scenario like this, for example, somehow Chess.com thinks rook f7 is an adequate description of this move. I don't think so. It takes a little bit more time to figure out that it's that rook that moved to rook f7. I'm gonna get that this can't move to f7, but at the same time, it still causes a delay in figuring out which rook was moved. So this is why we arbiters have these problems where it takes forever to figure out which moves were actually played. So this is all the more reason why there has to be a disambiguator come what may. So even though there technically is not a need for a disambiguator, we're going to write one anyway. So even this, like, it's still going to be rook 7 f7 because both pieces are still on the same file. So it's still going to be rook 7 f7. Likewise here, rook d7, no, it's because both pieces are on the same, like, even if they're not on the same rank, like, it still would have been rook d7 under the new w3-1 system. Again, the number of characters to write is consistently 4 characters in every notation space. Now going back to this, we've already established that queen 5 g6, queen h g6, these are what normally would have been. Now we're going to introduce something new that's also going to help streamline the whole, like, gameplay. Obviously, we've already established that every notation is automatically going to be 4 characters as long as it's not a pawn or a king. So in this instance, whenever there's a queen like this where there's another queen on the same file and another queen on the same rank, and this is considered the middle piece, right? So the one that's actually doubly disambiguated, well, instead we're going to use the delta symbol for that. So this would have been queen delta g6. So for example, if they say, for example, like there's a queen on c7, there's a queen on c5, and a queen on, like, e7, right? And then if we were to say queen c7 d6, it's still going to be queen delta d6. Does that make sense? So again, same 4 characters every time. This isn't very likely to happen in a serious chess tournament, like, especially over the board, but I have seen it happen. And I do happen to have a solution for this, and we're going to go over that. We're going to number these, like, remember how we were taught to, like, read from left to right as if we were, like even this text right here, we would read from left to right, and then the next line we would go down and then read again from the far left to far right. We're going to apply the same logic with these 4 queens, as you can see here. What that allows us to do, we're going to use the number of amongst these queens, and then we're going to circle that up for disambiguation, but, well, like, distinction, sorry. So instead of queen e6 f5, like it normally should have been for doubly disambiguation, whatever, it's going to be queen number 1 f5. Same 4 characters every time. It's 4 characters every time. So it keeps the gameplay, like, at a consistent pace. Again, it removes all the guesswork, and it keeps a consistent pace, and everyone can, like, not have to worry about time troubles anymore. What about pawn to the king? Well, in case people don't know the current, like, notation format yet, we'll just go over it briefly anyway. We just write the destination square for the pawns, like, you say pawn to e4, well, because, like, pawns can only move forward, right? So if we were to just say pawn to e4, like, the pawn would have obviously started at, like, e2 and then e4, right? We just write pawn to e4. And then as it moves further along, we just write e5, e6. Likewise, we have, like, from e7 to we say pawn e5, pawn e4, pawn e3, pawn e2. If pawn takes, we use the pawn's starting file instead of a piece symbol, as pawns can only take diagonally. E takes d5, c takes d5, that kind of thing. We just, again, pawns can only take diagonally and can only move 1 square. So obviously that's already used in the current system. And for king moves, we just use the K in front. We just use the K in front. And then N is for knights. Remember, we're not using knight F3 anymore. We're using knight G F3. So the N symbol is for knights. At first, I didn't get it either, but at first I didn't get why either. I genuinely thought this was some kind of, like, Chinese thing. I genuinely didn't get it as to why. But if you look up on the Wikipedia article, like, there are other ways to write a symbol for a knight. Like, I've seen KT as one of them. Like, but obviously time scrambles ended up being a thing, so they ended up settling for N for lack of time. So I started, like, getting used to that myself. 0-0, well, we actually use capital O actually, but whatever. Capital O means short castling, so that's the usual castle where you castle from the E file to the G file, right? And then queenside castling is O-O-O. That's long castling. And I know for a fact that whenever they say like, oh, we write E4 and then D takes E3, like I've seen an opposite scenario happen in that case, right? They don't normally like tell you that it was an opposite take. So I'm going to add an additional ampersand symbol to signify that something was taken opposite. So that's another change we're going to make. And plus means check. The pound sign means checkmate. That's already existing in the notations. X means takes, but like again, as you see here, E takes D5, or like bishop takes. Let's come up with a random square. Bishop takes F3 or whatever, right? And bishop would be the capital B. Bishop takes F3. That would have been obviously we have to make sure that the X symbol is not written at the end. I've seen some people do that. Like, don't do that. It's bishop takes, E takes. Whenever you say takes, that's when you write the X symbol. But other than that, the ampersand, the plus, and the pound signs, those are going to be used at the end. Say, for example, like D takes E3. Like, say, for example, D takes E3, ampersand, because D takes E3, en passant. Okay. So yeah, that's the new notation system that hopefully we get to use for all of our local tournaments moving forward, and hopefully other tournaments start using this system as well, so that everything is just more consistent and we arbiters don't have to deal with like inconsistencies in games anymore. And yeah, thanks for watching.